Good evening, everyone. So this is weekly live interactive session, week number 10. Myself, Suman Ganguly, and we shall discuss about the week 11 in your traffic engineering course, which is about parking management, and then it will also talk about traffic safety. So initially, we will brief about some important concepts of parking management, and then we will go to the traffic safety. And first three lecture I think about parking and types of parking and parking management, and then the last two lectures is about the road traffic safety. So after we do some discussion, and then we will come to the Q&A session for today's class. So first is why do you need to do parking, right? So already people are parking the vehicles on the road. So why do you need a system for parking, and what is the need of it? So as you know that cities are expanded rapidly in majority in urban areas, right? So and the demand as as population is increasing, along with this the vehicular demand is also increasing, right? In India also it is very rapidly it is increasing. So based on that, so now on roads there are many vehicles, so the vehicle load has increased on road. So now you do not have the sufficient parking spaces, because in cities or in urban centers in India, these are not properly planned cities, right? So these are kind of organically grown cities. So that's why you will find that the older part of Kolkata, Delhi or other metro cities, the old metro cities, they are having different issues, because they are not properly planned initially. So now you do not have sufficient parking spaces, so there are lots of vehicles and people are actually parking the vehicles on streets. So now what happens, already there are lots of vehicles, there are already road space is less because of the lesser probability of road extension due to the unplanned nature. So now in addition to that, people are parking vehicles on roads. So now it's again creating lots of congestion on roads. So it is not only creating congestion on roads, that is one of the aspects or ill effects of parking, or without proper planning. If you are parking on streets, another aspect would be it is hampering the road safety scenario in India, or as well as in other metro cities in Western world, as well as in the developing world. So because you are parking erratically on the roads, so now you have lesser space on that is available in the roads, and which is actually creating a kind of safety hazard in India. So what we usually observe that whenever you are parking a vehicle on road and then you are trying to pull out the vehicle and you want to drive, so maybe you are not sufficiently seeing that whether any vehicles are coming or not, so that may actually leads to conflicts, right? So this kind of scenarios are actually frequently occurring, especially in urban centers. So then these things actually it actually indicates there is a need to do parking studies, as well as proper parking planning and management is very necessary. So if you properly manage your parkings or vehicles, I would say, so then not only you can restrict your congestion and improve your road safety, but also actually through decrease in congestion level, you are also improving the air, right? So you are also decreasing the transport related emissions on roads. So there are many other associated benefits that you will get. Also by properly imposing parking or maybe imposing parking pricing, you also plan to reduce your congestion levels, especially in the CBD areas of a city during peak hours, so that actually those centers can operate in a sustainable manner. So with this, so there is a need that we should focus on the parking aspect. So now the types of parking. So generally, either you can park your vehicle on street, which we usually do, right? If you if you are a rider, then actually obviously you see that we usually park our vehicles on roads. Um, and another is the off-street parking, means if there is a facility which is dedicatedly, or maybe some floors of that facility which we can use for parking, like shopping center. Sometimes the ground floor, or maybe basement area, maybe sometimes is reserved for parking, so that near the shopping center there are no chaotic movements, or not, because maybe if there is no sufficient parking space is available near that shopping mall or shopping center, so people will park their vehicle on road, so which may create problems. So also in terms of, I think, building codes also, there are some regulations that you cannot, like if you have a shopping center, you should have some dedicated space for parking. Otherwise nowadays they are not allowing people to build those shopping centers without the proper parking facilities. So on street parking, if we plan on street parking, so either we can place our vehicle parallel to the road. Second one, we can park our vehicle perpendicular to the road, or maybe at some angles. So why this is important? Because if we are planning for this such kind of parking facilities, so generally there are bays, and there are predefined bays. Either they have perpendicular type of bays, or maybe they have parallel type of bays where you go and park. At least base means it is not always like a stalls or something, maybe some painted things, maybe they have used some paints to distinguish that this is the designated space for the parking, right? Also some angular parking. So actually there are different advantages and disadvantages. So if your parking space is less, say maybe you want to go with the angular parking, not with the parallel parking, because it will take more space. But in case of perpendicular parking or angular parking, safety. Their safety could be compromised, because if you like after parking, when you want to depark and leave from that particular space, so in that case there could be chances of accidents will occurs, because you may not able to see it properly, that whether there are any vehicles that are coming, so those kinds of demerits are also there. So the clear advantages of on-street parking is, you park your vehicle, you go to your office, you park your vehicle, you go to your home, right? So it is easy accessible for the people or the commuters who are using parking, who are wants to park their vehicles. Also they do not have to walk for a longer distance, so they can park their vehicle in a relatively nearby locations from your destination, and then they can leave their vehicle and go. But there are many downfalls, as I already mentioned previously, right? So safety is one of the challenges also. So now in case of off-street parking, so another thing is, generally whenever any municipal corporation, they are planning for on-street parking, generally they are allowing on-street parking for short-term durations, because for short-term duration it may not be necessary for any vehicle to park at a particular place and leave their vehicles for only maybe 2-3 minutes. So it may not be a rational thing to do. So maybe instead they can park their vehicle for a couple of minutes, and they can again they can come back, so road space is optimally used also. But in case of off-street facilities, generally uh, they are they build for long duration parking facility. So like in case of office, so you want to go to your office, so suppose your office space do not have any explicit parking facility, so now you have something nearby, some off-street facility, so you then park there your vehicles and then you go to your office. Then after your 7 hour 8 hours, whatever your timing of work is, after that you just take your vehicle and leave. So it is a kind of long duration parking. So the problem is that you cannot go on building many off-street parking facilities, because first is it is costly, second is you need space. So on street parking you have your streets, so you can dedicated some portion of it, some portion of your width to these parking facilities, and that's it. So you do not have to spend much money, you do not have to worry about other things. But in case of off street, you need space. Once you occupy that, okay, once you know that okay this is the space, then you have to also build it. So that is a challenge with also off street parking facilities, and also you have to impose heavy parking charges in order to get revenue from it. So now let's look into some so whenever you want to plan for a parking, so there are two things. One thing is parking supply, another thing is parking demand. So what is parking supply? Parking supply means how much facility is available in terms of on street as well as off street. If the assuming that both type of facilities are available at that particular location. Also, now there is a parking demand. So is it that demand is like at a particular location more number of vehicles are coming to park, so or less number of vehicles is coming for parking. So if you want to plan a parking facility, so you should know that where parking demand is high. Suppose let's take an example, in CBD areas during work hours there will be more demand for parking, right, in contrast to a residential area. So similarly in maybe during peak hour, short term parking maybe at some places could be very high. So those kinds of spatio-temporal variation in parking demand actually exists. So now before you plan your facility, you have to then survey that what are the parking locations that is available, that is the parking supply. Then second one is you have to go for parking demand or estimation of parking demand. So there are different survey techniques which are available to estimate this spatio-temporal nature of parking demand. One of the thing is doing parking occupancy surveys. So after you know these are the location available for parking, the second thing is you have to do a parking occupancy survey. So parking occupancy survey means, so let's consider a scenario where within peak hour 9 to 12 you went at suppose 5 parking locations, and you went 2 times, in the morning ones and the evening ones, and you see that okay how many vehicles are parked. So you find that maybe during 9 to 11 there are maybe 20 vehicles that are parked. So maybe then 11 to 1 maybe 15 vehicles are parked, right? So then also you may see that in different location this 20 is varying between maybe 17 to 23. So such kind of variations also do exist. So now once you know that parking occupancy survey is done, so now you know that how your parking demand varies with time. So now you know that how do you want to plan your parking facility. In case of off street facility, how do you want to plan for it, or in case of on street, how do you want to plan for it. So these are the things that you know. But one of the problem with parking occupancy survey is, so now you do not exactly know that each vehicles for how many time it is staying, at what time it had arrived, at what time it leaves. So those kinds of detailing, micro level detailing has not been performed. We maybe know that during 1 hour or during 2 hours this many vehicles are there, the next 2 hours this many vehicles are there, next 2 hours this many vehicles are there, right? So uh, so because it's a kind of a overall gross estimate, so generally another type of survey which is called a bit survey, so it is kind of more uh, detailed, and it is a popular technique than the parking occupancy survey. So in this kind of bid surveys, what we usually do, we take a duration like 5 minutes, 10 minutes and 15 minutes, and we went and checked what is the type of vehicle at what time period. Suppose now it is suppose we want to do it for 15 minutes, so for 15 minutes the type of vehicle, and then the maybe the number plate of the vehicle. So these are the things we noted down, right? So we may not exactly know that at what time vehicles arrive. Sometimes maybe already it has arrived, sometimes earlier, but if it is leaves, then actually we know. So it is slightly detailed technique, and we assume that in 15 minutes these vehicles are there. So bit there is something called bit frequency. Bit frequency means suppose you want to do this parking survey considering 15 minutes duration versus 5 minutes duration. So if you do it for 5 minutes duration, you will be able to catch the detailing, those fine detailings, right? So and as you do this, as you increase your bit frequency, so it will also accounts for the short term parkings, because short term parkings are maybe 5 minutes, 7 minutes, right? So that you may not be able to catch if you do it for 15 minutes or 30 minutes, right? So if you do it for less number of less time, you will be able to catch those detailings. Okay, so then, but still here also the problem is we exactly don't know the time periods. Maybe we are doing for a shorter interval, but still we will have some error, right? So more robust and more accurate method is to continuously observe the vehicles by installing the video camera and see when a vehicle arrives, when that vehicle leaves, by capturing the number plate of that particular vehicle, which is called the continuous observation survey techniques. So now actually we can even for short term parking and obviously for long term parking as well, we can do the accurate measurement. So now let's come to uh, some of the uh, some of the famously used or used terms in terms of parking, which we want to which we should actually remember. So first is parking accumulation. So what is a parking accumulation? So parking accumulation means the number of vehicles which are parked at any instance of time. So suppose right now it is 10 o'clock. So 10 o'clock I find the number of vehicles parked at 20. So that's called the parking accumulation. So then maybe at 11 o'clock we find that number of vehicles parked are 25, right? It accumulates, it increases to 25. So then it is 25. So then 30. So it's like that we will calculate the parking accumulation, how many vehicles are accumulated at a particular instance of time. So now suppose you find that at a particular instance 10, you find 20 vehicles, 30 vehicles, 40 vehicles. So now how many vehicles do you have? 20 plus 30 plus 40, right? 40 plus 30 plus 20 is your total, maybe 3 hours total traffic, total parking volume is 40 plus 30 plus 20 is 70 plus 20, 90. So at any instance of time, what is the number of vehicles parked is parking accumulation, but over a period of time, if we calculate and add it, the total parking or total parking volume or number of vehicles parked, that is called the parking volume. That is over a period of time. Now there is something called parking load. So suppose your first vehicle remained for 5 minutes, second vehicle remained for 2 minutes, third vehicle remained for 5 minutes, fourth vehicle remained for 10 minutes, fifth vehicle parked for 30 minutes. So if you calculate the vehicle hours, so the number of vehicle, 1 for 5 minutes, 2 for 10 minutes, 3 for 15 minutes, and so on and so forth. So now if I can draw it, so it's a vehicle hour. So vehicle hour means it is the parking load. So suppose you have 4 vehicles and you calculate the parking loads by summation of vehicle I into parking, I don't know, parking time I by total volume is V, which is also can be say summation of V. So parking load of parking load by parking volume, it's called the parking duration. So parking duration. So there is something called parking turnover. So what is the number of vehicles that has been parked and what are the number of bays are available? Considering ki one bay will take one vehicle, right? We can accommodate one vehicle. So suppose number of bays are 80 and at total within a period of 2 hours you will see that 40 vehicles has been accumulated or parking volume is 40. So 40 by 80 is your half is your parking turnover. So then the occupancy. Occupancy is parking accumulation by parking capacity. So parking capacity means obviously number of bays are available, that is called the parking capacity. And parking accumulation means at a particular instance of time what is the number of vehicles. So that is called the occupancy at that particular moment. What is the occupancy at that particular moment, not the total turnover. So obviously I was saying or I was discussing that parking, not only demand is important but also the parking supply is important. You have to design this parking space. So what is the parking space that is available and what are those requirements. So suppose you see, if you find that at a particular instance your parking supply is greater than your parking demand. So if your parking supply is greater than your parking demand, so then you do not have to worry about anything. So but if it is so that your parking demand is higher than your supply, so then you have to go for actually parking management and policy. Also suppose there are two types of parking, on street parking and off street parking. Now you find that your off street parking is full, but in case of total, if you see total parking space is available, but you see that in a detailed manner that your on street parking is actually vacant but your off street parking is full. So now you have to send your rest of those parking or who are willing to park those vehicles to your on street facility, right? So in a smart way also we can do this. Suppose this kind of management is very useful if you actually build a mobile app which can do that, right? So this is the parking management and parking policy. So we actually talked about the parking and its type, parking demand, its requirements, and some of the things related to parking demand. What is parking accumulation, volume, parking load, turnover, occupancy, those things. And finally, we also said that we need to design the parking policies in a better manner. Also, there are something which I am thinking that I should mention. So proper actually making proper parking facility is also important. Suppose suppose generally what happens if you see any parking facilities, uh, so as you parked for longer time, your fare has decreases. This is your parking fare. So maybe first 1 hour you have to pay 10 or maybe 20 rupees, next is 10 rupees, and next is maybe 5 rupees or so, right? So instead, if we increase our curve, that first maybe 10 rupees, then maybe 20 rupees, then 30 rupees, and so on. So what will happen that people do not want to park their vehicle for no reason. So people will actually because it is because they will incur loss, right? So they do not want to spend additional money on parking. So there could be 2 3 scenarios that may occur. So first scenario could be that people are not actually using their public vehicles or private vehicles, I'm sorry. So they maybe are using buses, metros, and so on. So already this parking policy can be used as a demand management tool also, right? So you are reducing your demand of vehicles on the road by by increasing your parking fees. So another thing could be that people will obviously go to a particular place and wants to park for that particular time period, up to the time period till it is very necessary for you. So for urgent work, for urgent time period, they will use their parking, not for it is their habit of just putting the vehicles and go. That will change. So it will also increases the parking spaces as well as reduce the number of vehicles. Another thing is, suppose you want to reduce your demand during peak hours, so you increase your parking price during peak hours. So there will be many trips that one commuter may do during peak hours, that will shift it to off peak hours, because it is not absolutely necessary, it is not a work trip maybe. So those kinds of trip are also will be get reduced during peak hours. So you are able to managing the demand. So there are many benefits, but actually due to political and several other reasons, we want to give either free parking or no cost or almost means at a very lower cost and like that. So but this should not be the way. This should be the opposite. So now let's discuss about the road safety. So but after the discussing this, we will actually go to the uh, the Q&A session. But before that, we want to discuss the road safety. So if you remember your week 1 interactive session as well as your week 1 material of this traffic engineering course materials or the course lectures. So there were two objectives in traffic engineering. One is primary objective is to provide safe travel to the commuters. So this safety comes from this. So because your road safety is the primary objective also in case of traffic engineering, so we have to look at in a separate way, right? So generally, based on the statistics, what actually we are seeing, that more and more vulnerable road users are actually participating in uh, or are the victim of the road safety scenario. So as for example, the cyclists, the bicyclists, the pedestrians, so they are the most vulnerable, right? So in India, this road safety is, if you see, I think in 2018 or 19, India is almost, I think India was ranked first in terms of road accidents. So road accidents in terms of number was very high in India in 2018-19. Also, I think 2022, I think latest some statistics has been released. There also India is again in the first spot. So there is a need to look at that why this kind of road safety issues are occurring in Indian roads. So actually it is not an Indian problem only, it is also a global problem. So there are many global initiatives. So one of the initiatives is called the safe system approach. So you have to make your system safer for the vulnerable road users, since they are the most mostly affected due to this road safety aspect. So let's discuss that what are the factors that are actually responsible for road crashes and as well as the fatalities, right? So first is obviously because in traffic engineering we humans are drive the vehicles on road, so human errors is obviously going to be one of the factors, risk factors. So human factors, what are the examples of human related factors? Suppose some drivers are aggressive, right? Aggressive means they are overspeeding. Some are under the influence of alcohol, so they are consuming alcohol and they are actually driving their vehicles. Some of them are not using the seat belts. So even if your accident is minor, but because you do not, you that time, at the time of accident you do not actually have your seat belt in place, so actually your accident severity increases. So and so on and so forth. So there are human errors, right? Also human errors could be in terms of that while driving the vehicles, truck drivers are like drivers are feeling sleepy, right? Or maybe the driver on the previous day was sleep deprived, right? Or maybe something else. So this kind of human errors actually can lead to accidents and the roadway fatalities. So then it may also happen that your road infrastructure is not safe enough. So your road infrastructure is unsafe. Suppose you have provided a suppose horizontal alignment, but that horizontal alignment whenever you have provided you did not, so maybe the stopping sight distance is insufficient. So if it is insufficient, so now this may lead to accident. One, it is on the curve and your SSD is insufficient, so it will result in the road crashes. So this kind of problem actually may be there in terms of road infrastructure. Also one of the examples could be that uh, you have not, suppose there is a school nearby, but you did not use proper traffic signs so that people actually can reduce their speed to some speed, and you do not, or maybe suddenly you said that reduce to 30, so you have to give sufficiently distance away, sufficiently warning that school ahead, then reduce your speed to 30 within 500 meters and so on and so forth, so in a proper manner, right? So maybe that is not there, so it may lead to accidents. So then even your vehicle may be unsafe vehicle you are using, that means maybe there are mechanical faults in your vehicles, your brake is poorly working, maybe you are using your old vehicle, like buses and trucks. They are very old, and their brakes are not that, means after even you apply a brake, it is sometimes it is not uh, working properly. Maybe you do not have your seat belts in place. uh, so those kinds of unsafe vehicle features are also may result in accidents. So then also if you have your, suppose your accidents occur, so we cannot say that accidents won't occur. Accidents sometimes may occur. So in case of accidents has been occurred, so we want to reduce the fatalities by providing emergency services. But maybe you do not have your ambulance ready for that. So maybe some mechanism you have to develop. Suppose one road accident is occurring, and you should have a helpline number so that people can reach, and your ideally an ambulance should come and take the victim to the nearby hospitals. And this total time should not be greater than 1 hour, which is called the golden period, right? So based on the literature. So but sometimes in different national highways and state highways, maybe your ambulance is taking maybe 45 minutes to reach your location, and then maybe it will take another 1 hour to reach the nearest hospital, because you do not have good facilities nearby. Uh, so the placing of ambulance, the sufficient infrastructure availability, so this kind of things needs to be done. Then the inadequate law enforcement. So whenever you are seeing that some vehicles are over speeding, so why don't you directly fine those over speeding vehicles? Why don't you even penalize those vehicles immediately? So you should have a sufficient reaction mechanism. So once you detect the vehicles, so you have to directly a you have to, some kind of enforcement system has to be developed. Either you do maybe you uh, you involve police there. Police maybe police will so there will be multiple locations where police may be uh, police may be present, and they will monitor this scenario. In other cases, you may want to develop new kind of intelligent enforcement facilities, where maybe using a video camera you can actually detect that whether that vehicle is overspeeding or not. If it is overspeeding, just impose a fine on the next nearby location, or directly send using the phone, or maybe give a warning to that particular driver. Something needs to be done properly. Proper enforcement is very necessary, because sometimes your road infrastructure and everything is okay, but still people are not obeying the rules, right? So that is comes under the enforcement. So now based on the global investigation regarding that why, so there is a uh, globally funded project of World Bank regarding the road crashes in India, as well as other low and middle income countries, which is called the LMIC countries, regarding that why over speed is happening. Ani, what are the actually possible reasons for road crashes in India? So one of the topmost cause that has been found based on this study is the overspeeding. So even MORTH, which is Ministry of Road Infrastructure, Road Transport and Infrastructure, of Government of India, as well as IRC, they have recognized that overspeeding is one of the top contributing factors which is leading to road crashes in India. So then also drunk driving in the wrong lanes, right? Red light violation, using of mobile phones while driving. So these are some of the factors which are actually are the causes of road crashes, but overspeeding is the number one. So see, you can correlate also. So as overspeeding is the number one, so first is why vehicles are overspeeding. So first is you have to place the proper speed limits and all, and even if after that vehicles are overspeeding, you have to have some kind of enforcement so that your overspeeding is not happened, and then your overall road accidents will be reduced. So then there are some human characteristics that are also found to be involved, like uh, like feeling lethargic while I am driving, feeling sleepy, right? Uh, and then maybe distraction due to due to mobile phone usage. Then maybe my vision is not good because the driver is getting older. So these kinds of factors are also very have a uh, greater role in actually causing road crashes in India, especially the big vehicles which are like trucks and heavy vehicles which who are driving those vehicles. If they are having this kind of issues, so this actually are found to be catastrophic. So then we actually talked about that how severe it, how accidents actually, what are the factors which are causing accidents. Uh, then in India, what are the causes of road accidents which are reported. Then also we talked about how human characteristics are actually affecting or impacting the road accidents. Then so we already covered that okay, road accidents is occurring, these are the reasons or possible reasons. So now we have to come up with some solutions so that we can overcome it. So there are two types of approaches for any problem to be solved. First is the proactive approach and second is the reactive approach. So actually proactive approach means, so before happening anything, any accidents in the real field, we want to take some proactive measure so that it doesn't occur at the first place. And reactive means after it has been occurred, we want to see that how to improve the roads or how what to do it, what to do. So in case of proactive approaches, so the road safety audits are one of the essential things that people are doing, and I think it is mandatory starting from your preliminary design of road, then the different stages like design, detailed design and those things, and come to the your construction, then after construction pre-opening stage. At every stage, even in the operational stage, you have to do or you have to conduct road safety audit. So what is road safety audit? Road safety audit is a safety check that is used by the experts to assess the assess or measure the level of safety that is there in the road. So they will give a kind of grading that what is the uh, suppose rating of your road in terms of road safety. If it is poor, so what are the reasons, how to overcome it. So and that will do by an independent body, not the related within the organization. Suppose I constructed the road or my company constructed the road, that company cannot do a or cannot conduct a road safety audit. It has to be done by a third party so that there is no biasness involved. So those kind of road safety audit are actually essential to identify the deficiencies and giving you the proper feedbacks. Then the also we can use some kind of road user perception survey to deal with the road safety issues. So we can, for example, we can take a survey of the truck drivers who are actually uh, maybe more involved in accidents, and we can say that what are the things that is affecting or impacting your road accidents. So you, as a driver, you are involved, so is it your fault or is it someone other's fault, or do you think this road is not good, or what is his perception, who is directly involved in the road crashes maybe. So that we can do to actually identify what could be done in future, so that no road accidents are not occurring. Then actually we can do some kind of simulation studies to replicate the field conditions, and we can use some surrogate measures. Surrogate measures are the measures which, yeah, can act as an indicator to safety. So if this indicator, the value is high, so maybe safety is low, so that means at this scenario the safety is compromised. But if we change this scenario to this scenario, so maybe our safety is increased. Suppose along a national highway, we see that we want to simulate, and we found that maybe smaller vehicles, or maybe near school zones there are more accidents, or near market areas there are more accidents, and uh, and those accidents are maybe occurring because pedestrians are rapidly crossing, vehicles are also coming at a greater speed. So maybe if we can impose the speed limit to the vehicles, and also if we can, in the simulation model, if we can just uh, just maybe install a signal, so that the pedestrian movement is not erratic, or not unpredictable. So maybe is it that it is creating, or it is increasing, or this system is benefiting us in terms of safety. So those kinds of things actually we can do. So then, because you have already the accidents are occurring, so we have some kind of data, crash related data. So maybe we can develop a crash prediction model, and we can see that what are the maybe road geometry factors. Suppose if accidents occur at a particular place, so or maybe what is the width of that particular place, what are the types of vehicles that are involved in the, or the types of road users which involved in the crashes, or is it occurring on the daytime, or peak hours, or off peak hours, or some other vehicles. So then can we develop a crash prediction model, so that we know that okay, uh, mm, maybe crash is depending on, or these are the factors. So maybe if we do some kind of reorientation in this factor, so maybe we can actually reduce the crashes. And then also can we do some kind of crash severity models. So suppose crash is occurring at a particular place more than the other, but other location 1 is having more crashes than the location 2. But if we carefully analyze, you will see that for location 1 there are only minor accidents, but for location 2 maybe 6 major accidents, 3 minor accidents. So now your accident severity is high at the location 2. So not only frequency is important, but also the severity is important. So then also based on the crash data, we can do some kind of descriptive analysis to see what is the mean, what is the total crashes, what is the variance, and other things, so that we can actually have a better idea about what the crashes and the other things. So now one of the pertinent problem, especially in India, in other countries also, it may be a pertinent problem in developed countries, but they they actually tend to have a better system than the Indian system. So traditionally we actually police actually records that where crashes happens, why crashes happens, and so on. And so not all the crashes are reported. That is the first problem. Second problem remains. So it is up to the police what he writes. So maybe sometimes they have reached the location at a later stage and they have asked some people where the accidents occur, and based on that they have wrote some reason as well as maybe sometimes some location, or maybe they want whatever. So there may be errors in the reporting itself. Sometimes police may manipulate the data so that people will not be at a disadvantage. Sometimes it may happen that if I write that these vehicles did this to these vehicles, maybe that vehicles maybe that driver may be at problem, so maybe he has wrote something else. So there are many problems, but recently India actually took an initiative. So now they are having an integrated road accident database, which is actually maintained by the traffic police department of the respective cities or polices. So, and it is online, it is not exactly open available, but some data I think in open access also it is available. So it's a good initiative, but still we need to improve our reporting, because without good data it may not be possible to predict everything. So also we should use some kind of secondary sourcing by going to the field, asking the local authorities, going to the hospitals, taking those records, and etc, etc. So this may help to bridge the gap. So this actually ends my brief discussion regarding the topics that have been covered in this particular module, that is module 11. So now if you have any queries, you can ask. I will wait for some time before I actually start the Q&A session. Maybe I will open that. So, do you have any question? Tell me before I start this. It is encouraged that you also participate in this. Okay, since you do not have anything, so let's start the Q&A session. So the first question is accept or reject type statement. So time of arrival and departure of parked vehicle, obviously, and the vehicle type and the license plate are recorded in the parking beat service. So there are three types of service that I discussed. One is the videographic survey, which continuously monitors. Another is the parking beat service, which we do for usually less intervals like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. And the overall gross is parking occupancy service, which is actually the gross level of service. So this so actually, to know this time of arrival and departure, you should have a continuously monitored system. Right, it cannot be some other type of system. It should be continuously monitored system, because in case of parking beat survey, whether we will do for 5 minutes or 15 minutes, even if we do for shorter interval, we don't know the exact time of entry of a vehicles and even sometimes the departure of a vehicle, right? So that may not be known all times. So this is a reject R. So which of the following statements are incorrect? Vehicle related factors mostly cause road crashes. Okay, vehicle related factors. It is one of the true statements. So there are several other factors, but vehicle related factors are also affecting the road crashes. So it is true. As per WHO global plan, the target has been set to reduce the number of road fatalities by 50% in 2023. Okay, 50% or 100%, we don't know. That was, I think it was 100%. I have to check once. Sequence of events in a crash are properly mentioned in a good crash database. If it is a good crash database, it is mentioned. Sequence of events. Proactive approaches of road safety require historical crash data. Proactive. Okay. it may require for validation actually. You cannot say it is all times it is not required. So it's a tricky question because generally we do not need crash data, but sometimes it is actually needed for us to know the crash data for validation purpose only, not for other reason. So which are the incorrect statements? So actually it is 50%, so it is a correct statement. So sequence of events, even it's a good crash database, it may not always sequence of events is very difficult, which happened earlier, which is happened, so it may not be actually. And generally it doesn't require, so it may be incorrect statement. And vehicle related factors are essential, but those are not essentials that much, because even if you do not have your seat belt in place, you may involve in the accidents. But sometimes it may, but mostly because it is saying mostly or generally, so it may not be true, so it may be false, because these are the true statements. So it is a, I have not written it, but it's a match, right, which is obvious. Okay. So safe system approach, hospital record, crash prediction model. So this obviously it's a reactive approach. Interview is obviously a proactive approach. Hospital record is obviously a secondary database. Police crash report a primary database. Safe system approach is what kind of approach? Is it a proactive or it is a reactive approach? That has to be known. So actually safe system approach is a proactive approach. So you want to build a system so that there are no road accidents that occurs. So safe system approach, SSA, it's a proactive approach. Proactive. And these are the correct answers, right? So it's a parking occupancy parking survey that has been done during 1 hour, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. It's a kind of bit survey. So these are the vehicle registration number, vehicle registration number. So this is bay 1, bay 2, bay 3, bay 4, bay 5, bay 6, bay 7, bay 8. So there are 8 bays, right? So for first bay there are these bay, because turnover is what? Turnover is parking volume by number of bays, means total bays are available, that is called the turnover, TO. So for first bay, this is the vehicles, this is the vehicles, and these are no vehicles. So bay, number of bay is obviously 1, and vehicle is also 1, parked vehicle. So these are the same license plate number. So for this it is 1. For second one, what is the turnover? 1, 2, 3 vehicles. So it is 3. For 3 it is 1. For 4 it is 2. For 5 it is 2. For 6 it is 2. For 7 it is 2. For 8 it is 1. So now your turnover for each bay is 1 plus 3 is 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, 14. 14. By bays are right. So this is the average turnover. It is the turnover for each base, and this is the average turnover is the 14 by 8. So 14 by 8 means, so 14 by 8 is 1.75. This is the answer for parking turnover. Okay, so average occupancy. So how do you calculate the average occupancy? So suppose we will do it for each 15 minutes interval, right? So if it is to be done for each 15 minutes interval, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vehicles plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 vehicles plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vehicles plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vehicles. So occupancy for 15 minutes is the parking accumulation, this. But since we want to calculate the average occupancy, so this has to be divided by 8. So 5, 5, 10, 10, 17, 17 plus 6, 23 by 8. Two 2.875. 2.875. This is the average occupancy. Okay, so there is a mistake actually. So it has to be calculated the occupancy for each 15 minutes by not only this, it is 5 by 8. Actually, let me just erase it. So the main problem is for each 15 minutes we have to calculate the occupancy, and occupancy means parking accumulation by number of bays. So here parking accumulation is 5, but number of bays is 8. Then for this case 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 by 8. For third case 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 by 8. Last case it is 6 by 8. So now the average of this all four, which will come out to be 0.7188, it is called the average occupancy. you want to do a percentage, it will be approximately 72%. For each 15 minutes, you have to calculate first the occupancy and then you can do an average. Okay. So parking load will be number of vehicles is 5 for first 15 minutes and it is 15. For next it is 7 and then it is 15. Third is 5 again and 15. Fourth is 6 and it is 15. So summation will be 5, 5, 10, 16, 23 into 15 vehicle minutes. So vehicles hour will be by 60. So 20, 54, so 23 by 4 ultimately. 5.75 will be the answer. 5.75. This will be vehicle hours. So you think, so do you think you have a confusion? You just try to see it. I will be back in a minute. So tell me if you have any doubts and queries regarding this problem. So average turnover is number of total number of vehicle volume, that is vehicle volume by the number of available bays, which is total is 8. So then the average occupancy is, first you have to calculate the occupancy at each interval, that is because it is a parking accumulation, by the number of bays, and then you have to average it for the 4 interval, considering the 4 interval, and then the parking load is the number of vehicles that has been parked during each in each duration, and then you have to sum it up. So I hope that it is clear. So so today actually I think I have covered the important aspects and topics and some questions. So this week actually we do not have much questions because everything is a kind of theory and all, and there are only some problems which are related to parking. One of the problem, so actually I have discussed. So similarly you can do other kinds of problems, but I think you will be able to solve it because those are not very challenging or problematic for issues. So I think you may not face such kind of difficulties. So uh, tell me that what queries do you still have regarding this parking as well as some initial portion of the road safety, and then we can go to the next part. So I will wait for you to respond before I close this session. And if you have some other queries also, you can ask, because it is a two-way interactive session. It is not only for recording purposes. So if you have anything, you can ask. So if you say no, then for today's session I will be closing it, and we shall meet in the next class, which will not be the final class, but it is the final 12th week of your traffic engineering, and we will finish it in the tomorrow's class, or we will discuss some important aspects as well as questions. And in the following that class, next class, we will be majorly focusing on uh, mm, uh, uh, the kind of a revision we will plan it, like a revision cloud, considering all the aspects that we have covered in this total traffic engineering. And if you have some queries, you can actually ask, and I will be briefing on that. So since you do not have anything major to ask, so I am just closing this session for everyone. So thank you for joining in. Bye.